Hey guys, so here's the thing. Since we last talked about Karen's chapter and I've started the preparations for the video response, I have watched 15 videos on a lecture series about the New Testament, and I am very close to being able to organize my thoughts in such a way that I can present it to you coherently, but I need a couple more days. Sorry, it's just been really hard to process this information. So I think by Sunday evening, Eastern Standard Time, 7 or 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time at the latest, I should have the video out. But yeah, I just need a couple more days to do it properly. But until then, I'm gonna give you a sense of what I'm gonna cover in the video. So even though I'm not presenting you with what I'm going to present, I'm going to give you a teaser trailer on what you can expect in the in the later video. My response, as I mentioned last time, is going to look at the evolution of Christologies over the early Christian movement period from, say, the 40s, 50s of the Common Era through the 1st century into the 2nd century. Since last Tuesday, I've done a couple things in preparation. One is I've actually added all of the videos that I am going to be drawing on in the History of God playlist. I'll put a link in the D box below to that. So you can start watching those if you want and get a head start. And that is the material that I'm going to be using and drawing upon to construct my next response video. You'll also see that in the playlist they're out of order, and that's because for this chapter, I'm going to take all of the Christologies and put them in a chronological order, because we're going to talk a little bit about why I think the historical Jesus is the most probable and most plausible assumption we can make about when we explain these Christologies, and then I'm going to go through and demonstrate why I think it's the most probable, the most plausible conclusion as we move through time. Watching those videos will be very good preparation, over preparation in a lot of ways for this course, for my lecture, or for this video. So if you're, have a little spare time because this is getting cut short today, then go ahead and start on the Dale Martin series. I have decided in the next video, when trying to integrate my interest in presenting information on an historical Jesus and Karen's chapter content, the best way to combine those things, this is also why I need a little bit more time, is I am going to take up an exegetical reading of the various texts that we find, and I'll go over those in a second. So that is the approach I'm going to take, an exegetical one. It's not one that I've seen coherently put together by other people, but when I think about it, it makes a lot of sense to me. So if I can make it make sense to you, then maybe you can see why I think an historical Jesus is quite plausible. All right, I'm gonna have to read my notes here on my work plan for the next video, and then you maybe see why I need a bit more time. But what we're gonna do next time is just do a very quick review of Jewish monotheism and Jewish mythology, so that we have an idea of the worldview of the authors of the text that we're dealing with. Then we're gonna look very briefly at Daniel and 1st century Jewish thought based on the Dale Martin series. And I wanna then present you with a diagram of Christologies, and there's a way that we can map them out using a combination of human and divine, and we can see exactly the debates that people were having about the nature of Jesus, what it meant for him to be human and to be divine, and then I'm going to map the various Gospels and writings onto that Christology map. Then I want to present sort of a null hypothesis, which is it reasonable to interpret this as Jesus being a real person from the author's point of view? So again, I'm not interested in whether or not there was an historical Jesus that I want to demonstrate through evidence. What I want to say is that people who are writing these texts that have the myths in them that we're looking at, did the author of this text treat Jesus as if he was a real person, or did he treat him as if he was non-existent? And then we can evaluate those, and I can draw my conclusions, and you guys can have your opinions, and we can go on from there. Once I've done all that, then we're going to start with the pre-Pauline prayers and other rituals that we can find. So there were traditions and rituals that were practiced before Paul joined the Jesus movement, just as is with the Hebrew scriptures. Proverbs contains ancient Egyptian wisdom literature, and that gets brought through. We have examples of this in the Christian writings as well. So we want to look at the pre-Pauline writings, and I'm going to look in particular at sections in Romans and in Acts. Then I want to look at the source gospel, or Q gospel, and look at the nature of it and the kinds of stories it contains and what that can tell us about whether or not there was an existing Jesus or a non-existent Jesus. Then I'll go through Mark, Matthew, Luke, Acts, and 1, and John. And I should also say that in that video, I'm going to also describe what I think it means to say there was an historical Jesus or an historic Jesus. And I also want to make clear that I'm only really taking up the position on the other extreme end, which is there's no way a guy named Jesus existed and he's completely made up and everything about him is myth. So I kind of see those as the two poles, and then you can kind of fall, I guess, perhaps in between. But I can't take up that position that Jesus didn't exist because that's not what I think. So I'm going to take up my historical position, and I'm going to basically kind of put out challenges for mythicists. Okay, if you think that there was no person named Jesus and everything is made up, then how do you account for this? And present maybe 7 or 8 of those examples. And then that at least will start a dialogue with people who do take up that position, because I would like to get answers to that, but I don't have time to go research it. So I'll make a video with my position, then somebody can make a video responding to it, and then we can open up a dialogue that way. So yeah, the reason that I'm delaying is because I always feel like you guys deserve my best work, or the best job I can do, given that this is a YouTube video and not like an academic lecture where you have to be tested on the material. But that is why I'm delaying the video, just because there's a lot of stuff that I want to cover and I want to do it right. So I thank you for your patience. And if you are bored today because there's a 10-minute gap now in your day, just to let you know that I do have a show on secular TV called Get Smarter. And because this week was taken up with the History of God preparation, I've done a review on the Dale Martin course for the New Testament, because it's all I watched this week. All of my TV time has been taken up with Dale Martin and the New Testament. So thank you for your patience, and I will see you guys again after the weekend. I've been Christy. You are always awesome. So thanks you guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye.